just ask you a question? You just mentioned something that's really powerful that I don't hear a lot of people say, and you were able to say it quite easily. So that means that they're in your conscious awareness all the time, which is around values. Because people talk a lot about values. I think like as it's just a nice word to throw around, and I don't say it to disrespect people. It's just a fact. But I meet very few people that can, you talked about some values straight away there. So I'm interested to know, like, to have that level of awareness of your values and be able to say, is that something that you consciously focus on a regular basis? Are they just like ingrained in your head? It's just like, because they're my values, this is going to drive my life.
Absolutely. It's when, because it was interesting in terms of my values coming through, it wasn't that I actually knew my values, to be frank. And so as a part of that process of sort of writing this birthday sort of rant, one of the questions I was asked is, it was almost like I felt like I was in a bloody job interview. He said, what would be your 5 favorite values that and when he asked that question, I couldn't answer it. And I was so embarrassed. So I literally threw words out that to get out of the question. Really? And so I made values up, and I was, integrity, honesty, trustworthiness. And then a couple of days later, I sort of felt really bad about that. And the next time we caught up for a coffee, which is this cafe downstairs from where I live here in Parnell, I said, bro, when you asked me about values, what were my values? I said, I bullshitted you. I lied through my teeth. I just made them up on the spot. And he said, no worries. But he said, so what are your values? He asked me. And I said, look, I honestly don't know, but the first one I'm going to start with is courage, because I really respect, when I was in my toughest time and my darkest moment, it required some form of resilience to go, I'm not done yet. This is not me. This is not where I'm going to, if I'm going to go out, I'm not going out like this, sort of thing. Yeah. And that's, that to me is deep down courage. It's that, in the face of adversity. So from there, that it was almost like I went to the other end of the bandwidth, and it was like, okay, courage, that's kind of, and so I went straight to love. So as I was doing this, in terms of staying in touch with my Māori culture, I was choosing the Māori word. So for courage, it's toa, T-O-A, and then aroha for love, and just going through, each of the values. And so the value side, and that's why it's such a good question, is I probably lived 55 years not really knowing what my values were, knowing that I had some, but not sort of walking the talk, because I wouldn't really be aware. I was probably, by default being a pretty good guy, or what I thought was a pretty good guy, and the fact that it was in line with my values just so happened to be. But then now I took it to, because I'm sort of a bit of a perfectionist at heart, went and bought one of those light boxes, and I put my values and lights up, right?
That's
and
awesome.
It's in my bathroom, so that when I get in the morning in the shower and I can see them there, I'm reminded. Now, sometimes I'll change them around, in order. Depending on what's going on in my life, I'll sort of rearrange them and do things like that. But, not that I've got any tattoos, but, if you're struggling, get them. If you're going to get a tattoo, get your values tattooed on your chest.
No,
you can do work.